and welcome to the Aragon Analytics review of the Benchmade 941. The 941, or actually 940-1, is a product that Benchmade came out with a while ago. It's an improvement, as they thought, over the very popular 940, which had aluminum scales and S30V. I'm sorry, it had the new ones have S30V. It had is either CPM 154 or 154 CM steel in it. Then they upgraded to, or what they thought was an upgrade, to S90V steel. The thought was to have a higher vanadium content to make the blade harder and therefore give it a more durable edge, or more edge retention. As for the the basic stats on the knife, steel, as I said, is S90V. Blade length is 3.40 inches. Blade thickness is 0.115 inches. The length of the entire knife open is 7.87 inches, and the closed length is 4.47 inches. Handle thickness is 0.44 inches, and the weight is 2.44 ounces. Now on to the basics. It's a good looking knife. These carbon fiber scales do two things. They make the knife look really super cool, and they make it really super light. Benchmade also included these really awesome looking blue anodized spacers utilized in its, as you can see, pillar construction. And the blade has a nice kind of a satin and stonewash. It's kind of like a satin with a stonewash finish over the top. You have the nice little Benchmade butterfly, and there's the Osborne designs and the indication that it's in at S90V steel. The good part of this knife is that it was a kind of a rethink of what is regarded as one of the best gentleman's folder / EDC knives out there. I purchased this knife with the thought that I wanted something that was not a full-on tactical blade, so that if I need to take the knife out to do some kind of everyday task, it's not all like a big, huge murder knife looking thing. My main tactical blade that I carry daily is a Spyderco Tatanka, although I have been experimenting with a couple other knives. You can look them up on the playlist. They're still kind of contending to see if they can replace it. But in addition to carrying a large tactical folder, I wanted to have something that was a little more capable than the Victorinox Cadet that I carry. Something you would use for everyday tasks, opening containers, envelopes, cutting errant, stray threads off clothing, maybe some, fruit peeling, whatever. Just stuff that you do while you're out and about and you need a cutting surface, cutting edge. And this seemed to really fit the bill. The blade steel was, everything in the reviews said, oh, it's just awesome, it holds an edge forever, and it's difficult to sharpen, but once you get it sharp, it stays sharp forever. The other plus was, the other blade I carry is big and heavy. I wanted this to be as light as possible, so that really low weight was a big plus. The other big plus was I'd never had a Benchmade before. And Benchmade utilizes this axis lock system, where to deploy the knife, you just hit the thumb stud. Always miss the deployments on video, without fail. Such is life. Now, once the knife's deployed, it's pretty solid lockup. And in order to put the knife away, you just pull back on these little studs on the side of the scales. And there's a little spring in there called an omega spring. And what that does is it forces this, this isn't just a little dot on each side. It's actually a piece of steel that runs all the way through the knife. And when you retract it like that, it allows the knife to close. Okay, so opening the knife, great action coming out, and to close it, it's one of those knives that when you get it, it's kind of like learning how to play guitar. You're gonna bring the new guitar home and you're gonna play with it until your fingers bleed. It's a great sitting in front of the TV fidget toy. That I will give it. The action is really smooth, and when you're not on camera, that is. The action's really smooth, and one-hand operation, just great with either hand. Now you'll notice there's no clip on this. Benchmade makes provisions for putting the clip left or right, tip-up carry. I hate tip-up carry. I freaking hate it. Everybody loves it. I despise it for a lot of reasons, including if the knife's in your pocket, tip up, and it kind of does one of these numbers. You go in to reach and grab it. Guess what happens? I'm just not a big fan of tip-up carry. Other problem is, as many of you who watched some other videos know, I carry a Smith & Wesson Shield in my front pocket almost all the time. 40 caliber handgun, subcompact. It's in there all the time. So there's no room for a knife in my front pocket. The back pocket has a large tactical folder in it. So I needed a means to carry, a utilitarian, non-tactical, just a, utilitarian cutting tool, albeit a very expensive one. And what I came up with was, for that handgun, I made a small piece of Kydex that would carry one spare magazine and also carry the Benchmade in there. And it does that securely, but it does it a lot better without a big bulging pocket clip. Now, on to some of the negatives about the knife. The knife, as said, has the S90V steel in it, and feel free to comment below as to what your experiences with Benchmade's version of S90V is, but my experience with it has not been stellar. It has not been great. I expected the knife to be an absolute pain in the butt to sharpen, and guess what? It was. I use a Kin Onion Work Sharp to sharpen the majority of my blades. I know that Wicked Edge is better. I know that the Edge Pro Apex might be better. I don't care. I don't want to spend an hour and a half filing at something with 80 trillion different stones. I want something where I can run through 4 belts and it puts an edge on it that will smoothly shave hair. If it does that, I'm happy with the edge. In order to achieve that edge on this knife took 3 to 4 times the amount of work that it would for a knife in 154 CM or 8CR13 MOV or AUS 8A or any of your common steels. Now, it was about twice as bad as sharpening S30V. But that's all well and good. But the problem was not with the difficulty. I could deal with, the thing being a pain to sharpen, as long as the edge, number one, you would think with an edge as hard as it is, and it is very hard, that it would kind of, retain that edge really well, and it would be capable of achieving, because of that hardness, a super acute, just sharp as the devil himself frickin' edge on there, right? No. I was able to get a nice shaving sharp edge on it. However, the problem came in, everyday use. I don't know what is the deal with this steel. I've heard a lot of different things. Something about the vanadium carbides being so, huge and numerous that they kind of chip apart. And what ends up happening is, for a layperson out there, you'll spend 3 to 4 times the amount of time you would on any other knife sharpening this knife to shaving sharp. Then you'll use it a little bit and you'll be left with a surprisingly dull, semi-sharp-ish edge that sucks, and that is what lasts forever. You'll have something that you can do some rough cutting or cutting cardboard or that kind of garbage, but that fine cutting edge that you really want to have, it is that ultra fine shaving sharp edge. In my personal experience, granted this is a sample of one knife, took forever to get it shaving sharp, and that shaving sharp edge goes away so fast and you're left with a semi-sharp edge that you can kind of do some rough cutting with, and that rough cutting edge will last virtually forever. So that is a big miss for me. The other problem with the knife, I'm gonna really upset some other people here. Now this is like that thin catalog paper. It'll do the quick cutting, that's no great shakes. But when you try to get into some, see this has actually been used a bit, and a couple of weeks ago this was an absolutely shaving sharp edge, okay? Absolutely shaving sharp. And now it's just not, it's not cutting the way a knife should cut. This is the way that a knife should cut. Quick cuts. If you want to change direction a little bit, do an S cut, that kind of thing. That's the way a knife should cut. So, to my way of thinking, if you're looking for a knife of this design, if this design turns you on, go for the S30V. It's cheaper. This one, Amazon at this, at the time of this video, Amazon is retailing this thing out at $267. So, will this be my last Benchmade? Yeah, probably. If you take a look at a lot of the knife reviewers out there that are a lot more knowledgeable than I am, basically their quality control has slipped. I don't know if this was a heat treat issue for them, what the deal was, but a couple weeks ago this thing was absolutely shaving sharp. And you got to remember, I'm reviewing and carrying a bunch of knives with me all the time. So under light use it has gone from shaving sharp to semi-sharp, and it just sucks, guys. It's just not a good blade. I know that's going to upset some people, but it's just not. A lot of other reviewers have been a lot more genteel about stating the truth, but this is a $267 piece of crap. It's so bad in the blade that, if Benchmade would do it, I would send the knife back to them, say, look, how much would it cost you to put an S30V blade in here? And, keep that crap S90V that you put in there and just charge me, because I really think aesthetically it's awesome. It looks great and it's the right size and it's the right weight. But, it's, I'm sure, partly due to the heat treat or the some part of the manufacturing process with their S90V. And, it's also partially the blade design. If you compare this to, say, a Spyderco Paramilitary or a zero tolerance, a lot of the zero tolerance blades, from the top edge to the cutting edge, those are much broader blades, and you can have a much more gradual decline to that cutting edge, and this is much more abrupt. And all these other reviewers were singing the praises of this blade design, and guys, I got to tell you, I think it kind of sucks. I don't know if the S30V blades are better, but and I should have taken the time to break this into a two-part review, but my reviews are long-winded enough, and I know most of you don't sit through them all the way anyway. But I just want this to kind of be a buyer's beware kind of thing. I know this knife has been out there for a while, but I don't know if the word is out as far as the S90V steel. They have the 940-2 and S30V. I think that would, with the G10 scales on it and green spacers. It's not as aesthetically pleasing, but it'll probably be a better cutting blade. Although, I don't know, if Benchmade, almost let an F-bomb loose there, if they screw up the heat treat on that, S30V can suck too. Case in point is the video review I did on the Mercworks Proeliator. Like I said, I don't know if that's a sample of one issue where they just had a bad quality control on that batch of blades that they were heat treating, but that knife sucks too. Now, I have other S30V blades that readily take an edge and they retain it, and they get super fine, surgical, sharp edges on them, and they retain those edges for a reasonable amount of time. No knife is ever going to stay at that hyper sharp level for an extended period of time, but it shouldn't lose it after opening one or two packages and, you know, cutting an apple. It shouldn't go from, you know, hyper keen to semi-sharp, semi-dull like this has. So this is definitely a not recommended, and sorry to kind of get off on a rant and get kind of angry about it, but $267, folks, that was a lot of money to lay out for something that I'm, you know, really disappointed in. And, you know, it's worse yet that it's a cool looking knife, but, you know, if it doesn't work well, you know, it doesn't work well, and it doesn't. So anyway, that's the review. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll hope to see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.